Clive Myrie skewered Nick Clegg's anti-Brexit position live on air and claimed it had proved disastrous for the Liberal Democrat in elections. Broadcaster and journalist Mr. Myrie takes over the Mastermind presenter's chair tonight from John Humphrys after the veteran reporter had held the post for 18 years. In episode 1 of the BBC Two show's new season at 7:30 p.m., guests will be quizzed by Mr. Myrie on specialist subjects which include Bruce Springsteen, Switzerland and Sir Roger Moore. Mr. Myrie is an esteemed journalist and won 2 RTS Journalism Awards for his harrowing reports from the NHS frontline before landing a role on the iconic TV game show. Mr. Myrie grew up in Bolton to parents who immigrated to Britain from Jamaica in the early 60s, and said watching Mastermind was a weekly treat. We always had it on in the house. It's amazing to be part of it now. Mr. Myrie wants the show to retain its reputation as TV's hardest quiz show. He said, "It's all about the set, the lighting, the aggressive music. It's the idea that you are being interrogated for 2 minutes on your specialist subject, what you know and what you don't know." He added, in an interview with the Eye, "It's important to keep that format, the simplicity, the sense that it's just you, and your interrogator and the black chair, whether it's Magnus Magnusson, John Humphrys or now, me." In his distinguished career as a journalist, Mr. Myrie gained a reputation for being tough on his interview subjects. In 2016 he hit out at former Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Clegg's stance on Brexit and said the public did not seem convinced by the proposal for a second referendum on Britain leaving the European Union. Mr. Myrie noted the Lib Dems' performance in the local elections, which had seen big gains for the Conservatives when scrutinising Mr. Clegg's Brexit position. He said on BBC News, "The fact that the British public don't seem convinced. It does feel like a do-over for them, the idea that there should be a second call on all this, and it certainly hasn't helped you in the local elections. Disaster really." Mr. Clegg tried to hit back, and said, without sounding pedantic, "It's not a second, it would be like a first referendum on what the actual deal looks like." But Mr. Myrie responded by highlighting how it was not a clear proposal for UK voters. He said, "You need to be very clear about that, don't you? That's the problem." Mr. Clegg then insisted that voters in the referendum did not actually know what they were voting for. "It would be the first time that we would be able to compare concrete propositions because remember the Brexiteers, very cleverly, if very cynically, claimed that Brexit would give us £350 million for the NHS. Quote, support for the Lib Dems had waned dramatically in 2016 and by the elections in 2019, the party won just 11 seats under the leadership of Jo Swinson.